All right. We're going live here. Just trying to get this camera adjusted right so it doesn't fall down. All right. The topic of this video, welcome to Dorsey's Resource. Question and answer plus must see documentaries. Must see documentaries. This might be a slow night because this is we're going from Monday night into Tuesday. So Monday night into Tuesday, so things may be slow. This is question and answer plus must see documentaries. I highly recommend. First, before we get started, this video is for informational, educational purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In any event, you need to seek a competent professional. It is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my thoughts and opinions on the topic. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, for those who join, first of all, I want to go over some more must-watch documentaries, and it's the reason why I place emphasis on this. And I want to address. Recently, I've been getting inquiries at my email. I do not do one-on-one consultations. I'm not set up for that yet. I would have to look into how can I put it? Trying to monetize my intellectual property because I feel like I should be getting paid for some of the more powerful information. I have already given a lot of resources, high-powered information out there already for free. You know, high quality information. I have friends with major credentials who actually one of them is already set up for that. And I'm just not at this time. I would have to get you know, something set up for that, and that's also public parts of it. And you want to be careful mixing public with private. That's called commingling. Commingling is when you're mixing public things with private things. So there is a difference, contrary to popular belief. But to get documentaries, I highly recommend up front, and it's the reason why I go over these. Some ones I normally don't mention. One of them is called Ring of Power, Empire of the City. Ring of Power, Empire of the City. Most of these documentaries you can watch for free on YouTube. The first one is called Ring of Power, Empire of the City. The second documentary that I'm going to go over is called Invisible Empire. Please check out Invisible Empire. It came out some years ago by Jason Burmis. The third documentary is called Endgame. Please check out Endgame. It has a green logo. Blueprint for Global Enslavement, called Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Powerful, powerful, powerful documentary. I can't harp on it. It came out some years ago. I won't say who was produced by. Some of you guys already know. Another documentary that's powerful for those out there in the African American community is called Maafa 21. In case you don't know, Maafa is a African or a Kebaline word for Black Holocaust. There was a Holocaust that African Americans have gone through. They made a documentary. There was a pastor who was in this documentary. He was a guest on this particular radio talk show host. I won't say because YouTube is, you know, with all this censorship, they just for even saying the name of the talk show host, some of you all know who I'm referring to, or the website, they're demonetizing. They did some of my videos because I do get paid for my videos. My channel is monetized, and you know, it's got to a point where they didn't used to do that, and it's like G-rated compared to other people out there. So they decide what they determine is hate speech and all of that. But that's why I'm not saying the name of this individual. But you know, these documentaries will provide the proper education behind many things that the mainstream media tries to say are conspiracy theories. Not everything is a conspiracy. Conspiracy, the word is, take it by itself. People do conspire. Theory is something that's theoretical. It hasn't been proven. So you have to understand, you have conspiracy facts, things that have actually occurred, happen, and also conspiracy reality, that things that may not get talked about in the open because this is like a taboo subject. Taboo subjects are like something that's uncommon or uncomfortable for people to really talk about, but this information is more powerful. It's more important than a lot of these shows that come on TV, like Power. Just to think of some offhand, American Idol, America's Got Talent, all of these different shows to distract you. I'm not saying I've watched some of those shows myself, but that's what you should do in your downtime. These documentaries that I'm going over are way more powerful and provide the proper education as far as what we should be doing to correct our economic structure, and understanding the ruling class and what's myth, what's real, and what's not. And when you are able to do that, then you can actually develop in your own communities a proper and better infrastructure. There's a documentary, it's called Scientists Are Under Attack, or Scientists Under Attack. You want to maybe look that up online. It may not be available for you to watch for free on YouTube. I actually have it in my possession. It talks about how this particular company had been going around the world genetically altering the crops in our food supply. Please check out Scientists Are Under Attack. Another documentary that was related to that was called Farmageddon. In a way, Farmageddon. You may be able to watch that for free on YouTube. So check out Farmageddon. That's a whole separate documentary from Scientists Are Under Attack. Then there's another one, I'm kind of freestyling off the top of the head, called Genetic Roulette. Please check out Genetic Roulette. Let me see if I can get. Also, I wanted to go over some books too, if I have the time. In case you're joining me, or you're a few that are watching, you are welcome to jump in. And if you have any questions, now is the best time to ask me. Because for security purposes, I'm not doing any one-on-one consultations anymore. Like privately, I never really did, but it was like voluntarily at my own discretion. For those people who reached out to me, because some people knew me personally, contacted me or referred me to other people that had questions, and I'll do my level best to answer the questions that I can answer that are not too sensitive. But I really have received, I appreciate the overwhelming response. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I don't have the infrastructure in place to handle large volumes of people. I'm practically like a one-man army, and people haven't like volunteered like in the past with other YouTube subscribers or people who are really large or really big. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, I'm going to put in what people put back out. Like if people want that, and want to see me put out more quality, better information, I could even have gotten maybe more subscribers had I checked into a branding service or whatever. But that wasn't my intent originally when I first came out. I could have done those things. However, I'm still learning myself in terms of networking and trying to, build bridges with other content creators that are out there. But mind you, this type of information they don't really necessarily want out there. I do have some notes with me real quick, so let me see if I can find some more of the documentaries. But so far I just went over Genetic Roulette. That's one important documentary I recommend. A couple offhand I always bring up quite a bit. Is one of them is called Money Masters, and the other is called Monopoly Man. Please check out Money Masters and Monopoly Man. I didn't expect a lot of people to be in the chat tonight too, by the way, because this is like a school night. We're going from Sunday, Monday night into Tuesday, so a lot of people got to wake up or go to school in the morning, so I understand. But it gives me a time to also go over topics, but at the same time allow those who are watching to ask me questions. So you have to catch me when you can. I don't have designated time periods when I decide to go live. I just felt it's a lot easier than versus me uploading content. I was working on a video yesterday, but I received a phone call and I got distracted there. I had some material based dealing with the law related to sovereignty or redemption education, and I mean quality, legitimate information that's highly credible. It was going to be about some terminology dealing with the straw man to prove that it's real. I had documents. I had a lot of documents. I was going to do a screen capture on my computer, my PC at home, and also I was doing some sound tests to make sure because in the past I want to try to get the volume to come out right when I did some videos on the secret TDA accounts. And the conclusion that I came to, those TDA, well, that's the name that people were using, you know, between private or secret accounts. And if you look up the definition of private or secret, they practically mean the same thing, very related. They are being blocked, from my observation, my research, by the Federal Reserve. I learned some more information from another content creator that does videos I won't go into right now, that was really pretty much on to something. But when you would see that return code that says R34, you know how the banks have a code if a transaction tries to go through, because it would go through with a lot of these payment processes for different utility companies, but then several days later it reverse, bounce back. That's not a coincidence, but it was being blocked. I can tell the conclusion that I've come to, and I had forgot that I had attended this event some years ago where the main spokesperson at the event went over the reason why it's blocked, and I had, for a time being, I had totally forgot about that. And you have to fill out an application process. Now I don't know if that process is still going on, because they shut that whole operation down for the time being. Some of the elites that were there, those in the know real high up, disappeared. And maybe, you know, if I can understand, for security purposes, maybe some of them had to sign non-disclosure agreements. And it really was an event that I actually attended. I have the documents and evidence to prove that. I've sent that to some people already, and whatnot. I won't go into all the details. Other people that have attended confirmed, for legitimacy and credible purposes, by the way, because I had questions myself. I'm very big on legitimacy, and if things are credible, you know, I need to know this as well. So just keep that in mind. Also, I was going to talk about their symbolism too in the movie Wizard of Oz, that it's related to the redemption movement. Some things that I can think of offhand in the movie Wizard of Oz, how the Tin Man, TIN, stands for your tax identification number. That movie had allegories in it, similar to the Bible, metaphors. It was very significant. And it was, before my time, in the early 1900s, I learned this from a relative many years ago. There were books, and it was actually based off of a book. The book was out before the movies. I learned this years later. With a lot of movies, they actually are based off of books first, or the books were out before the movie. And before the movie was written, in the book, around 1914, Dorothy had silver slippers instead of red slippers. And the reason she had silver slippers, it represented, when she followed the yellow brick road, that represented the silver following the gold out the country, because the Federal Reserve Act was signed in 1913 too, by the way. So all of this was put into place cryptically. Believe it or not, that movie has a lot of symbolism, like with the straw man, the scarecrow, and the straw man. It's a nominal front, a fictitious entity, legal fiction. In the court system, they actually have used the terminology legal person, but the proper term, and you can look this definition up in the Black's Law Dictionary, in lingus is Latin for nominal front. You also have capitis diminutio maxima. I'm just going to deal with that. That deals with the all caps name that symbolically years ago during Roman times, under ecclesiastical law, ecclesiastical jurisdiction, for legal purposes, when your name was put, like if you look at tombstones, when people die, it's in all caps. Legal purposes, it's a difference. So hear me closely now. Speaking legally means you've been captured. You also have something called capitis diminutio minima. Now I won't delve into that, but capitis diminutio maxima deals with your all caps legal person, and that is true. Contrary to popular belief, I'm giving you confirmation with some things. I'm not saying I have all of the answers, but I've spoken to some credible sources and credible people that information is true. So I was going to go over that just to give you guys a teaser, a tidbit. I was working on that material as well. So far, I'm looking for some other information to cover. Also, another documentary that's important. I mentioned this time and time again. Please check out. It's called Conspiracy of Silence. Check out Conspiracy of Silence. It was a banned documentary on the Discovery Channel. You can watch it for free on YouTube. Now, when you type it into the search engine now, it appears like YouTube is trying to hide it. So there used to be more when you used to type it in. A lot of things that were related to the documentary used to come up with it. I noticed that doesn't happen anymore, or as much. It's still out there. It's still like several different channels or people have it uploaded, but I highly recommend, please check out Conspiracy of Silence. Look up the people associated with that documentary, and please spread that to loved ones and friends. I have a friend that I met down in Texas, him and his wife told me that she woke up to that documentary when I mentioned it a long time ago or whatnot. She was a follower of my videos, and she said that documentary helped wake her up. This is a true story. So it's very powerful. Please check that out. It will help explain a lot of things. And the reason I'm going over these documentaries, they help give credible info on things that have actually occurred, that have actually happened. Confirmation, which the mainstream media won't cover. That's why YouTube is trying to lie and cover this up. And this is important. That was an important documentary too for the Me Too movement as well, for the spark of the Me Too movement. And there's different facets. I won't spoil it for you guys, but things that get into human trafficking, child trafficking, and that can branch into other areas such as drug trafficking, and there's other types of trafficking, organ trafficking and stuff like that as well. And there's documentaries to watch on those things. I don't have offhand like dealing with organ trafficking, but some of these different forms of vices in the underground economy or the black market overlap with one another, and they're controlled by the ruling class elite at the very top. And some governments around the world, like in China, where they were caught breaking UN laws, harvesting organs from people that were practicing Falun Gong. It's like a form of Qigong or whatever for healing, spiritual purposes. It became really popular, grew in the 90s, and then they started disappearing people, taking them to camps. Doctors, Chinese doctors who were whistleblowers in the Manchurian community came out as whistleblowers, and YouTube even tried to cover some of that information up. So it shows you, like, with this whole censorship stuff, there's really things that they don't want put out here that's important. And there are massive human rights violations too that can be violations of treaties and international laws under the Geneva Conventions and other international laws that are very, very serious. Contrary, people might laugh. Like one guy tried to tell me when I did a video about the censorship and about that particular radio talk show host who was banned, he tried to tell me that the antitrust laws are not working anymore. And that is not true. The former UCLA basketball player, Ed O'Bannon, who used to play for UCLA, he won his lawsuit against the NCAA, by the way. I guess it's still going to go through other processes where many of these big schools or colleges are making billions, millions, and billions of dollars off of athletes using their likeness and image. And that can get into copyright infringement if they want to ban them from receiving gifts and stuff like that. So they felt certain players banded together that this is not right. I don't even think that's right. I feel they should give them something or have something set up in place after these guys leave school, because sometimes they don't always go pro and whatnot. And there's a lot of other vices or traps they get caught up into. So I think that that was a step in the right direction. But antitrust laws were set up and put in place to stop big corporations from bullying smaller entities and from to keep their to allow fair market, fair trade, you know, because socialist type governments too lead to authoritarian regimes, totalitarian states, because they say socialism, and it's not just my words, but historically, you can look it up and research it, always leads to communism. Like in other countries, I'll try to give an example really quick, like when they call Trump a racist, or say, you know, for example, in that question I asked a friend of mine, I said, what's the rebuttal to that? You know, I hear that quite a bit as like an excuse, or they say it's the KKK. And my friend said, and I kind of rephrased it. He said to me, what's holding you back from achieving your dream? Yeah, it might be harder to a degree in certain demographics for certain minorities. I do get that. But overall, you can still, in this country, go to college. If you wanted to be a basketball player, a rapper, entertainer, play tennis, work in corporate America, if you want to be a fashion designer, if you want to be a model, what is Trump's racism? If he is racist, is it stopping you? Because this question was asked to former Detroit Piston basketball player Dennis Rodman, and he said no. And I agree with Dennis Rodman. What's holding you back? And I thought about it, and I said, you know, my friend has a good point. You know, when they say liberals say that it's racism, that Trump is racist, and they have such a big issue, but at the same time, some of these same people will tell me it's nothing stopping you or holding you back from getting out the job that you're in. But yet, you know, when it's things that they don't agree with, then they want to claim, oh, it's racism and this is holding you back. You know, they want to preach tolerance, but yet they're intolerant. So to further reiterate, he said, what's holding you back from achieving your dreams? You can be a basketball player, you can work in corporate America. Some countries, you can get arrested, like in North Korea. You know, they already disappear people. China, I just mentioned. There's other places. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm going to step out real quick. Okay, I'm back. Thanks for waiting out there. But like I was saying earlier, to reiterate, you know, as my friend was saying, you know, what is holding you back from achieving your dream? You know, that in many of these other countries, they have gone in a communism, like full-blown communism, you know, where it's really bad, where they disappear people just for, you know, having a political discussion. This is where things are leading to over in America, believe it or not. That's why even liberals and Democrats, people spoke up, you know, on behalf of that talk show host that got banned a while back, and he wasn't the only one. Even if there's speech that you don't agree with, I even had teachers in high school would say you just can't yell fire in a movie theater. They talked about freedom of speech. Even college, I had business classes and things that I took. So, you know, what's stopping you once again from achieving your dream, your goal? You know, racism and KKK is not stopping me. Yeah, I do get that. You know, some people, you have obstacles. You have to work hard under a capitalist system. It's not, you know, I'll say a utopia or perfect system, but I think capitalism, in my opinion, is far greater and a free market, a fair market, than socialism, statism, and communism. You know, I think overall that's better, because a lot of people, you know, want to preach, you know, being tolerant, but yet they're intolerant. Just something to keep in mind. And another thing I've identified is pay attention to the banking system. The banking system, the Federal Reserve, you want to look up. That's why I went over those two documentaries, Money Masters and Monopoly Man, are like must-see documentaries. And there was another one I heard, I'm trying to think of the name, the guy that helped produce Money Masters, he did another one. I can't think of the name, but I believe I went over Ring of Power, Empire of the City will actually help connect the dots for must-watch documentaries that are important, that will help really provide powerful insight. And it's the reason why I keep going over these documentaries, because some of the questions I get, I can tell when people ask me questions behind the scenes, or I've spoken to people in person, that there's still a level of education that they're not at, that they haven't achieved. And it's people that have degrees and stuff, you know, that went further than I did. Because see, they also have to understand, when you're going to college, it's teaching you how to be a good slave for corporate America. And one of the reasons they created Common Core was to dumb down the newer generation. The sister I was speaking with, I used to help out with these conference calls. She's down in Georgia, and she was telling me about a particular university. I can't think of the name. Believe it's in Atlanta. I know it's in Georgia. She said they removed the liberal arts program. And the concept a friend of mine was explaining previously, they did that, and she agreed, was to keep people from being versatile from many different facets. They don't want you to be able to connect these dots. So these documentaries will help give you a well-balanced perspective to draw the conclusions, so you're not being manipulated by many things that are happening, that are going on out here. So you get both sides of the story. You get the real truth that the mainstream media in many cases will not talk about or will not cover. You know, this is a fact. So I want to look over if there's some more important information for you guys out there. So I have a lot of good notes that I've taken to go over with you still. So before I want to shut things down, like I said, to reiterate, if there's any questions, now's the time to jump in the chat really quick. If you have any questions, now's the time to jump in. So it's the last call. You know, other than that, 'cause I'm getting ready to shut things down. I see we have a few more people that jumped in, but I understand. I didn't expect there to be a lot of people once again to jump in and chime in tonight. I just wanted to show you guys I'm still here. I'm back. I haven't forgot about you all. Doing my level best to try to manage things until some other things take place. But I want to make sure you guys get the accurate information, you know, that's not really being talked about. I have some notes with me here. Also, another thing that was going on during the previous administration, you had spying that was going on and doxing of U.S. citizens. Remember, Eric Snowden talked about as well, and I know there was a local news station that I saw that reported on this and said that it was unconstitutional. So for those people out there that say the antitrust laws are not effective, there's things that I hear that can be done, that a lot of these big tech giants such as Google, Apple, and Twitter, that have been violating people's free speech. You know, there might be you know, some litigation coming, and I hear in some instances there's lawsuits that are being filed, and also a lot of content creators have left and moved off of YouTube as well. This just kind of reminded me a good point. If you can, you have minds.com as an up and coming great, excellent social media site. Gab.ai is another one. For minorities and black YouTubers out there, there's one, what's it called? I can't think of it offhand. Wow. Because, you know, I have trouble, you know, trying to keep up. Well, I'm going to have to find that for you guys. Black Spot. That's it. It's called Black Spot. Those for melanated content creators. Also, Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, he started a site called Real.video. You know, check out Real.video. It looks very promising. A lot of these sites, I have not actually, the sites I'm mentioning, going over, I was just doing research, because some of them, they allow you to preview them. You have BitChute. It's another one. And DTube. I think you have to have a Steemit account. And BitChute and DTube are connected to the cryptocurrencies, as well as Minds, where they allow you, you know, because some people fear about losing their advertiser money, or because YouTube has a big following. But mind you, that platform, YouTube, was built from a grassroots level, where, think about the name YouTube. It was about you. But when YouTube got really big, which is owned by Google or whatever, and Google's parent company, Alphabet, you know, basically is in charge, then they started selling out to big entertainment industry, dealing with Hollywood. And that's why you have YouTube Red. And they just wanted to shun a lot of the organic content creators that helped make YouTube what it was people that talked about things outside of the box or outside of the norm, and was saturated. So now other mainstream media dying outlets that where people didn't really watch TV anymore or were still glued to cable, then they jumped and came to YouTube all of a sudden. But there's already been a massive fleeing, so that shows the people, the power lies with we the people, you know, that went away. So I recommend too, you don't have to be on Facebook. There's many other platforms to be on a network and with other people that are like-minded. Also, you have Twitch, because YouTube even started censoring video gamers to show you how wicked the cabal is. So Twitch was created, they mainly appeal to the gaming community as well. So this is factual information that I'm going over just from research that I've done. You know, that's something important I wanted to share with you guys. You know, so get off YouTube. I'm getting ready to work on, you know, plans myself. Just know if something ever happened to my channel, you might be able to find me on some of these other platforms. That's if I don't down the road go private, which I might, you know, I might get off social media altogether for various reasons. I probably would have to say that for another video. You know, that would be contrary to if certain things happen, which I was very displeased with something, event that took place some years ago. I won't go into that. Some of you all might know what I'm referring to or have an idea, but that's the only thing other than that. But these other platforms, they're web hosting platforms. I went over Real.video, Minds.com, Gab.ai, Blackspot for melanated content creators. There's another one for black people as well that Dr. Boyce Watkins has. I can't think of the name of it offhand because they're popping up. They're new. You have BitChute, DTube, it's connected to like the cryptocurrencies as well. They don't censor heavily, and I would say it's bad. There was one that came out called vid.me, and they went down like right before Christmas last year. They had allegedly promised that they weren't going to censor, and they were just kind of a front. They didn't keep their word, so people left them really quick. So you can't dupe people either. People want platforms that how can I put it, that support free speech. You know, just because it's something you may not agree with them, that's their right to the First Amendment, freedom of speech. That is their right. And then these other tech giants or whatever, such as the Google, Facebooks, and Twitters, want to arbitrarily tell you what they consider hate speech because it doesn't align with their narrative or their political views. That's not fair to you and us as we the people. So just something else I wanted to go over other than just must-watch documentaries. There were some books I did kind of mention earlier. Check out David Icke's books. Are very excellent material too. There's another book called, you can look these books up online or on Amazon or eBay. Look up a book about the people that run the world. It's called Judaism Discovered. People who are studying with the Hebrew Israelite or studying these things, they want to know who rules the world. Another book, look up Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. That's a very important book. Will explain and tell you who the ruling class elite are. Will give you a blueprint to help connect the pieces to the puzzle. There's another book I think I might have with me, and I do. I showed it before. Check out this book called, this is part 1, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, put out by the Nation of Islam. I heard some years ago they did not want Minister Farrakhan to release this book, and because there was powerful information, they tried to label him anti-Semitic. And a friend of mine was sharing this with me, told me they even banned Farrakhan from ever speaking before Congress because of that. And you know, he said this book was put together by the Historical Research Department of the Nation of Islam, and these were documents by the Jews' own writings, how they were involved in the slave trade and the Jim Crow laws. Like the Democratic Party was started by the KKK. This is a fact. You can look this up, not my words. The Democratic Party was also responsible for the Jim Crow laws, meaning which water fountains you could use, member at a time, and many of the things that took place earlier on that doesn't get talked about by liberals or people they try to shun. But you know, they looked into it, Farrakhan's research department. I have part 2. I just got this copy. I'm still reading it. But this has excellent information. Also, for some black people out there, they tried to accuse me one time, a few, of being an agent. No, I'm not an agent. I could break down very well. Now, I do network with people that have information, but I've checked out, vetted their character. They're of upstanding character. They have connections to what would be considered the deep state or whatever, and they relay information. Just like there's things I might know they don't understand, I might relay to them. But this book really explains in a great detail why there's a stronghold over the black community and why Democrats want to keep black people on the plantation, especially part 2. Part 2 came out years later. I think this came out in the early 90s sometime. I know part 2, I found out, was released in 2010, a lot of years later. And volume 2 was excellent. It had some information how there was even Jewish members of the Ku Klux Klan, because a lot of people don't understand these last names that people have, these surnames, have a meaning to them. Just like in the dictionary, different words have meanings. It's important to look up these surnames where people tried to hide their ancestry and things they didn't want to be exposed, you know, behind what was going on. Think about, it's not a coincidence when they talk about certain groups that they say Trump should have a diverse White House, but why don't we have a diverse Federal Reserve banking system? I asked a friend of mine, why isn't the Federal Reserve hire any black people have you seen as chairpersons, like Ben Bernanke or Janet Yellen? And all of these names, these are Jewish names. Even with the Treasury, Secretary of Treasury, former Secretary of Treasury, Timothy Geithner, Jacob Lew. You know, just something to think about here. You know, why is that? They talk about diversity. So are they using black people, minorities, as their pawns? You know, I was at an event this past summer, historical event in Michigan called Idlewild, and there was a topic brought up. I brought this up in a previous video about Kanye West. And it was, I understand people there are passionate about their beliefs, but one sister has said to me, she asked me, did I know about this book? Because I started to bring up, does anyone here know about the Illuminati? You know, I'm not afraid to talk about this either, you know, because I want people to have valid information. I brought up the banking system, but she said, she asked me, did I know about William Cooper's book, Behold the Pale of the White Horse? And I told her I do. And she had made mention, she said, so they're using black people as their pawns. You know, with a lot of this race baiting, that's why they're constantly calling Trump a racist. But like I said earlier, what's holding you back and stopping you from achieving your dream? What's stopping you from going to college, from being a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, a rapper, a drug dealer, if you want to do that? Because I hear in the Philippines, Duterte is arresting drug dealers. Well, some of y'all in some states is legal for marijuana, but at the same time, what's stopping you? How is the KKK or Trump's racism stopping you? You get it? Think about it. So obviously, like I say, to reiterate, this book, a friend of mine first told me, he knows a guy that was a Mason he's no longer in touch with, and I knew the guy. I wasn't as close to him as my friend, but this guy, I believe he was under the Prince Hall chapter out of Georgia. And he stated that, he said, check out this book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. And in one of the volumes that I was reading, it talked about there was a relationship to the Masonic lodges too, as well, because Prince Hall was a slave at one time. And when he was able to, I guess, get the chapter, to have the privilege to have a lodge, there were certain rules he had to follow. They were only allowed to do funerals and stuff like that. You know, so it's important. Why is a lot of this history and stuff talked about? Just something to keep in mind. So I went over factual, credible information in this video, high-powered information. Overall, I'm not trying to spook you guys out there. I did give a disclaimer. I wasn't trying to scare you, but this is like maybe the elephant in the room. It's like a taboo subject, something people don't want to talk about. I didn't mean to be offensive if it was offensive to some of you all, but at the same time, we need to talk about this and have a real discussion, especially amongst black, when I have this discussion with other black people, and I have my opinions. And with that being said, I'm getting ready to shut things down. Stay woke. You know, you can follow me at Dorsey's Resource on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Don't forget to smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, thank you for watching. Take care.